Welcome to the cold sanctuary of the truth. You have spent years wondering why the air in your home feels heavy, like a storm that refuses to break. You have watched the narcissist move through the world with a mask of supreme confidence, but today we strip that away. We are going to look at the predator when the supply runs dry and the biological debt comes due. Brace for the secret. Imagine the silence of a house where a predator lives. It is not a peaceful quiet, it is a vibrating, anxious tension. You think they are brooding over a lost deal or a slight at work, but the reality is visceral. They are experiencing a somatic famine. They are starving for the energy they once siphoned from your very marrow. Today, we expose the deadliest addiction they hide. The big haunting question we are answering today is this: why does the narcissist's intimacy feel like a clinical autopsy? While you were searching for a soulmate, you were being studied by a parasite. Their addiction isn't to you, or even to the act itself. It is an addiction to the extraction. They need to see your light flicker so they can believe they have a pulse of their own. You have felt that post-coital chill, haven't you? That sudden, freezing drop in temperature where they turn into a stranger before the sheets are even cold. This is the mark of the deadliest addiction. They have harvested the dopamine, they have consumed the oxytocin, and now they are done with the carcass. You are left wondering if any of it was real. The truth is much darker. They want you to believe that their withdrawal is a choice, a way to punish you with their absence. But the secret knowledge is this: they are the ones suffering. Every day without a fresh frequency injection is a day where the voices of self-hatred in their internal basement grow louder. They are junkies staring at an empty syringe, and your empathy was the only pharmacy left. We are pulling back the heavy curtains to show you the internal poverty of the monster who tried to make you feel small. Most people think these predators are invincible masters of seduction, but they are actually emotional scavengers. They are cursed to hunt for a high that leaves them emaciated. They were gasping for air in their own vacuum, and your heart was the oxygen tank. When the sexual supply is cut off, the narcissist enters a state of somatic dissociation. They literally lose the ability to feel their own skin. They need the friction of another soul to convince themselves that they are solid. Without that friction, they feel like they are dissolving into the gray static of the void. This is the terminal disease of a soul without a human center. You are witnessing the clinical breakdown of a system in a state of permanent overheat. They are frequency pirates who have hacked into too many souls, and the lag is finally becoming lethal. Every conquest was a desperate attempt to feel a heartbeat in their own hollow chest. But as the silence grows, the residue of unprocessed trauma manifests in their flesh as a slow rot. This is the secret they keep in the dark. Their frantic search for new partners isn't about charisma, it is a survival tactic to avoid psychic death. They are running from the mirror because the mirror shows a hollow man. They need your submission to feel powerful, but when you go cold, they realize they have no power over their own disintegrating reality. The mask is melting now. This first chapter is your sanctuary of clarity. You have been blaming your inadequacy for the distance in the bedroom, but the distance is the narcissist's own internal decay. They lost the bet the moment you decided that your peace was more important than their dopamine hit. As we move into the breakdown, remember, their agony is the most honest thing they will ever truly own. To understand the narcissist's descent, we must look at the internal object. In the narcissist's warped reality, there is no boundary between them and the world. They don't meet people, they consume them. They turn you into an internal object that lives inside their head. Once you are converted into a digital phantom, they believe you are theirs to use until you break apart. The narcissist is a somatic junkie who has worn out their nervous system. They have spent decades chasing the dopamine of conquest, but the law of diminishing returns has kicked in. Each new lie requires more effort for a smaller hit. Their reward circuitry is burned out. They are anhedonic, incapable of feeling joy even when they win. They are climbing to their own funeral pyre. Metaphorically, the narcissist is a high-end hologram that requires a constant stream of data from the projector. You are that data. When the connection is severed, the image starts to glitch. By the time the somatic weakness takes hold, the projected image of the confident alpha is flickering. You see the gray, petty child hiding in the pixels. This visibility is death to them. Their hidden motive for the sexual hunt was always internal regulation. A narcissist cannot regulate their own emotions, they need to offload their toxic waste into a receptacle. They used you as a psychological kidney to filter the poison out of their system. But when the partners disappear, the filtration fails. The acid of their malignancy stays inside and starts to burn them. We must talk about the narcissistic void as a spiritual hunger that eats character. Because they have no internal pilot, they are blown by the winds of external validation. When the physical supply was high, they felt inflated. But in the absence of that high, they flatline. This flatline is a psychic death. Their necrosis is the hardening of their malice into a physical weight. Imagine a star that has run out of hydrogen. It begins to contract and collapse under its own gravity. That is the narcissist in the end stage of their famine. They have burned through all their supply sources and their reputation is tarnished. They are isolated in a cold universe of their own creation, frantically searching for a sun to siphon, but they are too heavy to move now. Their internal chaos is a static storm of projective identification. They identified you as the abuser so they could feel like the victim. This roleplay was the only way they could avoid the mirror. But now the voices in their head are getting louder. They see your ghost in every room, not because they miss you, but because they miss the energy they looted from your spirit. Deep down, the narcissist finds human vulnerability and physical need to be repulsive. It reminds them of their own powerlessness. They despise you for loving them. But in this state of prolonged absence, the disgust is splashbacking. They are disgusted by their own face in the mirror. They are drowning in a sea of self-loathing, and every hand they reach for is a hand they bit. The narcissist is a frequency parasite who jams your warning system. They use the tactile pleasure of the skin to muffle the alarm bells of your soul. This is biological gaslighting. Your nerves were singing, but your spirit was screaming. The narcissist created this dissonance to exhaust your intuition. But now, without the host, the parasite has nothing left to infect but itself. The psychological breakdown reveals an abuser as a closed system running out of entropy. They are cooling down to absolute zero. Their biological rot is the end of the motion. As we move into the turning point, you will see what happens when the empath finally switches off the lights. You are going to see the power shift from the hungry ghost to the radiant, sovereign sun. The dramatic turning point arrives in the absolute silence of your indifference. It happens the moment you stop trying to explain. You stop defending. You stop reacting. This is the psychological plot twist the narcissist never saw coming. They have been baiting you for years, fishing for a response to anchor their reality. But today, the hook finds only deep and cold water. Watch the narcissist's panic when the mirror refuses to reflect. They are addicts who have just been cut off by their dealer. They will try a hysterical Hoover, crying fake tears and promising heaven and earth just to see if the old strings still pull. But you are not moving. This stillness is traumatic to the predator. They scent their own irrelevance. You are finally gone. This is the moment of internal sovereign alignment where you realize the abuse was a filter they placed over your eyes. You take the filter off and see the abuser for what they actually are, a small, frightened, empty shell screaming for attention. The rot is visible now. You see the grayness. You don't feel anger anymore, you feel clinical observation. You are the scientist. When rage fails, they pivot to strategic victimhood. They will invent illnesses, financial crises, or family dramas to guilt-trip you into resuming the connection. They are frantically trying to load the syringe of their shame and inject it into your compassion. But you see the calculation. You recognize the performance. By naming the demon, you strip its power and walk past. The silence of the empath becomes the acid that accelerates the rot. Without your empathy to heal the wounds they self-inflict, the abuser's internal injuries fester. They start fighting with everyone else. They burn their own house down just to feel the heat. They are spiraling into chaos because they cannot exist without a calm center to disturb. You were that anchor for them. They attempt a malignant discard to save the last shred of their ego. They announce to the world that you are the problem, that you are the narcissist. This is a psychological confession of their internal failure. They are projecting their own death onto you. But you are relieved. You accept the discard like a lethal promotion. You watch them walk out and feel the density lift. Show the shift in the energetic signature of your life. The moment the abuser is gone, the space sanctifies. You strip the bed, you burn the sage, and you open the windows. You realize that the spiritual necrosis was a contagion they brought into your temple. Now that the carrier is gone, your vitality returns. You breathe into your center and feel the radiance of your spirit. This is a psychological shift. You forgive the vessel for absorbing the rot. You realize your body was just trying to survive a toxic spill. You nurture the flesh with self-respect. You realize the relationship was a dark initiation that forced you to find your internal sword. You thank the trauma for breaking the mirror and revealing the sovereign. You have finally graduated. This is the moment of total detachment. You look at the past and you don't feel pain, you feel physics. You see the mechanism of the transfer. The abuser is a name you barely remember. They are a minor malfunction in the great machine of your evolution. The turning point is absolute. You are inhabiting your life with an intensity that is terrifying to the weak. You are home. As we move into the collapse, remember, the abuser depends on your reaction to stay 3D. By withdrawing your focus, you have deleted their existence in your universe. They are going to panic. They are going to burn their own world down to get your attention. But you are no longer the firefighter. You are watching the fire from the high ground, safe in your own sovereignty. The collapse of the narcissist is a spectacle of absolute void. When the empath stops absorbing the rot, the abuser's false self shatters from the internal pressure of its own nothingness. They experience narcissistic mortification, the psychic death they've been running from since childhood. You will see them acting out with manic recklessness. Their mask is melting like acid. Their social consequences are swift and public. As the recovered empath moves through the world with quiet dignity and icy indifference, the abuser's smear campaign evaporates into the stench of desperation. The truth has its own gravity. People start seeing the pattern of the withered victims the abuser leaves behind. You are the witness who survived the clinical autopsy. The internal panic of the abuser becomes a manic screaming for new supply that no longer exists in your space. They look for you in every face they exploit, but no one can reflect the God image you once gave them. They are starving for the high-grade empathy your sacred energy used to provide, but the pharmacy is permanently closed. They killed the golden goose for sport. Watch the harsh truth of their new life. They look old. They look grey. They look brittle. The life force they stole from you has expired, and they have no internal reactor to generate more. They are cursed to repeat the same loop with lesser and lesser souls until they draw their last breath. They are trapped in a body that is closing down, haunted by the memory of the sun. The tone is brutally cold and analytical. The abuser is a parasite that underestimated the resilience of the empath. By moving on spiritually, you have executed the predator. They are the walking dead, carrying the corpse of their own ego. They hate you for surviving their spiritual warfare. Every breath of peace you take is a poison to their delusion. They are collapsing now. Internal panic leads to pathological stalking of your happiness. They analyze your every post, searching for a sign of pain, a sign of return. But they find nothing but strength. This strength is traumatic to the abuser. It debunks their God complex. It proves they are just a glitch in your evolution. They are screaming from the shadows, trying to cast a spell you don't hear. The social discard concludes with the final isolation. The flying monkeys have woken up. The family has distanced themselves. The abuser is left alone with the ghost of the one they couldn't destroy. This isolation is the mirror they feared their whole life. In the silence, they are forced to hear the echoes of their own lies. They are stroking the air where you used to be. Brutally truthful analysis. The abuser failed because they miscalculated the resilience of the spirit. They thought they could starve the empath, but they only forced the empath to hibernate and evolve. Once you wake up and retain your energy, you are invisible to their manipulation. The narcissist is a shadow that cannot exist in the presence of your internal solar truth. Intensify the collapse. You watch their disintegration with a sense of sacred justice. You don't feel vengeance, you feel order. You see that the world is actually safe because you are the one who defines your reality. The abuser's rage is a distant noise that no longer reaches your frequency. You are living at a depth they cannot reach. The monster is finally, clinically, dead. As we enter the final truth, look at the ruin of the abuser and realize, you are the winner. The rot was just the shell of your evolution. You have found the key. You have opened the door. You have walked into the world and the world recognized you. The final truth is cinematic, empowering, and saturated with radiance. The collapse is complete. The sunrise is now internal. We have reached the final truth. The terror you felt in the dark was never yours, it was theirs. You were simply the mirror reflecting their internal abyss. The night doesn't belong to the predator anymore. It belongs to the soul that has integrated its shadow and found its own light. You don't need to fear the silence, because the silence is where your power actually lives. Emotional closure comes from the absolute knowledge that the abuser never existed as the person you loved. You were in love with a reflection of your own empathy. Today, you have taken the reflection back. You are closing the case file on the predator. You have realized that their hate was a badge of honor. A being of darkness will always hate the sun. You are the sun. Healing is the cinematic slow burn of presence. It is the feeling of the ground under your feet, the sound of your own voice telling the truth, and the sight of a future that is unwritten and safe. You are reprogramming your nervous system to expect beauty and respect. You are learning that empathy is a superpower, not a sentence. You are finding your soul in the quiet. Empowerment is the quiet strength of the empath who refused to stay defined by the predator. You have seen the bottom of the abyss and you brought back the fire. You are unshakable. The narcissist's screams from the shadows are just background noise in the symphony of your life. You have changed the frequency. You are tuned into the voice of the universe and the earth. You are part of a global awakening of sovereign empaths who are refusing to be supply. We are collective strength. We are spiritually invincible. The narcissist's obsession with your energy was the last stand of a dying parasite. The age of the predator is ending. The age of the authentic is beginning. Your voice is a siren of truth for others who are still shaking. Imagine the final scene. You are standing on a mountain peak at dawn. The wind is blowing through your spirit, cleansing the last traces of the abuser's shadows. Below you, the dark valley of the narcissistic trap is dissolving in the light of the new day. Above you, the sky is exploding with colors you can finally see again. You are whole. You are complete. You are home. The abuser is now a distant ghost, stalking the ruins of a life they burnt. They are screaming at the wind, begging the dust to become the host again. But the dust stays dust. You are flesh and blood, light and fire, moving at the speed of joy. You have found your tribe. You have found your peace. The spiritual necrosis was just a dark cocoon. The final truth deliverance. The narcissist tried to kill the empath because they were terrified of what would happen if the soul went sovereign. They wanted to keep you as a battery, but the battery exploded into a sun. You are magnificent. You are unstoppable. You have won the game by walking off the field. You have ascended beyond the manipulation. The ghost is dead. Reclaim your space. Reclaim your voice. Reclaim your right to walk the earth with confidence and dignity. The sexual killer, the psychological parasite, and the emotional arsonist have no power here in the presence of your light. Use it to warm your own life. Use it to create beauty. You are a generator of universal light, and the grid is restored. You are the master. The narcissist's deadly addiction is the biological debt they can never repay, but your victory is the radiant health that begins the moment you finally stop being their supply. Go forth and inhabit your life with the intensity that was meant to be yours all along. The act is over, the mask is shattered, and you are finally, irrevocably free.